Hello, welcome back to Plants from BA9. This is my final follow-up on the series of short videos looking at propagating clematis for yourselves. If you've seen the previous videos, you'll remember that back in early March of this year, it's now the last week of June, and in fact Glastonbury Festival is going on just along the road from us. 9th of March this year, in fact, I started off this series by doing some clematis cuttings. Since then, in part 2, we've potted them on into these pots, and now today I'm going to pot them on into a larger pot where they're going to live now for some time longer. Things to bear in mind with clematis: the roots like to be cool. And a lot of our pots, I think we all know this now, are black. Makes them difficult to recycle. The only way really we can recycle them is by constantly reusing them, which I think most of us are trying to do. But leaving these sat in the sun isn't great for them. So I'm going to find somewhere nice and shady where I can group the successful plants, small plants, where they can live now for a few more months, properly filling up their larger pots with good roots, and I'll give them the occasional feed because they're going to be in this compost now for quite some time. So let's have a look. I can see by looking at my tray that we've had 2 or 3 casualties. Not every plant makes it, they never do, but we'll see how this goes. So, moment of truth, I guess. So this little cutting that started out on the 9th of March this year has been potted on once into a 9cm pot, and I'm now going to put it into a 1 litre pot. Let's just get one of those ready. I did originally look for quite tall pots to go into, but I think the jump might be a bit big, so I'm going to go with this and see how it goes. Great. So my assumption was that this plant was doing reasonably well. The above ground growth looks pretty good. He's got a couple of singed leaves. I expect that's where he's got burned in the sunlight, but there are some good roots there. 2 schools of thought. I could leave him in the small pot until he fills up far more, but I am actually now going to take that. Look, you can see exactly where he's come from the base. And I am going to pop him now into this pot. So I'll hold the cutting in place, fill up with soil, and this is a good multi-purpose. I will feed, as I say, occasionally. Let these plants now come on in peace and quiet, somewhere sheltered where the pots themselves are quite cool, but I can keep a close eye on them. There we go. Let's have a look at 1 or 2 others. So here is a casualty. There, absolutely no sign of life on that poor little fellow. Quite interesting to see how far he got with roots. No. So he didn't take a little bit of sign of life here, but that's it. So he will have been one of the ones that we took out of the corners. If you remember in the first video, they were positioned in the corners of the pots. He started to grow some roots, but he would have been one of the weaker ones, I'm afraid. This one has a mix here. The original stem looks like it didn't do very well, but in fact he's got some new growth coming here. It's possible, if you've seen the first video, you'll remember me talking about taking the cutting such that you cut off one of the lateral stems. So if I use this one as an example, obviously I wouldn't take cuttings from this plant. I'd let it grow a bit more first. But the leaves come out opposite each other. Some plants, leaves come out staggered like this, but on clematis they come out opposite. And what we did was we took cuttings internodal cuttings, and we actually also cut off one of these branches, which meant there were two places where the plant could root from. It could root from the bottom, where that first cut was made. It also had the chance to root from the side here. There's a possibility, looking at the way this plant is growing, that in fact that's exactly what's happened, and that this brown dead piece may have been the original side branch that we kept, and that's died off, but that a second set of growth has happened. Let's have a look and see if we can tell. So here we go, roots right down at the bottom of the pot. Nice strong ones like those first ones we looked at. Just have a quick look at how we're doing here. So I wouldn't like to call it, to be honest. I think the growth has come out of, I think it's spurred from the side piece here. So that's not growing off to the side and growing up. I think it's coming out, a bit like tomato plants do. So we'll get him potted up. We'll use some fresh compost. Over this side, I'm going to just take off that piece and start again from here. Just firming it down as we go, so there's good connection between the roots and the soil. We don't want big pockets of air. That's not going to give the plant any nutrition, and actually big pockets of air can soon fill up with water, and these plants don't want to have super soggy wet roots. I'd like to show you this one, which, as you can see, has got quite significant length. One or two of these cuttings have taken off. This would be the other one. As you can see, they're taking a little bit of slug damage, which is another reason I'd like to move them to somewhere better in the garden to come on. But both of these have actually tried to flower and have formed flower buds, which seemed quite exciting, and it would be very tempting to leave the flower buds on and allow the plant to flower. I think I chose to take them off because I'd like my plants to concentrate on building really good, strong, thick root systems. The better the root system, the better in the long term the plant's performance is going to be. So in both cases, I've actually taken out the growing tip or pinched out the flower bud that formed. And I think that's an important principle to bear in mind. So I'm going to carry on potting up, and then I'm going to find that sheltered spot in the garden to keep these guys cool, but where they get enough sunlight so that they can keep photosynthesizing and growing and creating really strong roots. Thanks very much for watching. If you have any questions, please post them and I'll try to answer them. Thank you very much.